Welcome to the Midweek Mailbag, your Detroit Lions midweek podcast where we answer your Detroit Lions questions here live on YouTube, live on Twitch, and not live on your podcast feed. So don't try to type in comments. Well, I guess you can comment now on Spotify, but you're not going to get your questions asked over there. Answered. You'll get them asked, but not answered. My name is Jeremy Reitzman. I am the, I don't know, whatever you want to call me. Lead producer, head producer, veteran producer, senior producer over at Pride of Detroit. One of your co-hosts for the Midweek Mailbag. You can find me at Detroit Online. Who cares? I hate Twitter. Anyways, with me, as always, for the Midweek Mailbag is the managing editor of Pride of Detroit. You can find him at Erik Schlitt on Twitter. He is also the machine. It's Erik Schlitt. How we doing, buddy?
Hey, bud. How you doing this morning?
A little frazzled, apparently. More frazzled than I thought I was.
It's all good, man. We'll get these questions going, and everything will smooth out once we start talking about the Lions.
Everyone is calm, cool, collected everywhere, and we're gonna ride the wave, not the crash into the shore here. But yes, we're here to answer your Detroit Lions questions. And if you ever want to be a part of this, you can send your questions to us on Twitter when you send out a call, typically on Tuesday mornings. For your Pride of Detroit Direct subscriber, you can send us an email anytime, and I will try to add those, or at least the ones that I think are relatively good, or uncovered. Or you could be part of our live audience on Twitch and YouTube, and during the breaks, which you don't hear on our podcast, we answer a bunch of questions during that time as well. But you didn't tune in for the in-between stuff. You tuned in for the podcast. So let's kick it off here with Elliot Battle, who asks the question, if Dan and Kelvin want to reduce stress on the cornerbacks, what unit is best equipped to handle the extra responsibilities, and how would that look? This is, I think, in reference to the question that I asked Dan yesterday at the press conference, because it seems like, for 4 years running now, the Lions have put a lot on those outside corners, and it hasn't particularly gone well for a lot of times. I would say maybe one season of Carlton Davis has gone well, and everything else has been like, man, those guys are in a tough spot. So is there anything that they can or should be doing to loosen their load? And Dan kind of gave an answer of like, yeah, we're talking about that sort of stuff, but when you do that, you're taking stuff away from someone else, right? Like if you're bringing safety help, it's taking away from that safety in the run game or playing, whatever. He didn't get very specific with it. So what would that look like to you, and should the Lions consider it?
Yeah, it's mostly talking about getting, like you said, getting safety help or getting linebacker help. Yeah. Obviously, the pass rush is the biggest catalyst that would impact the corners. But if you're talking about strictly helping them with their coverage load, you're talking about zone coverage more. You're talking about two high shells instead of single high shells. But like you said, the offset of that is if you're running two high shells, then you have one less guy in the box, and that makes things a little bit more challenging in the run game. And so now I do think that's something that they are going to consider based on some of the comments that Dan has said. At the same time, I don't know if this is the week. This is the week to probably run some too high, but not. I still think man coverage is kind of the way to go. So like maybe you're running like a cover two man as opposed to a cover one man, which they run a lot. And so, the Steelers have a really good run game, and you're going to want to stop the run. But if you're worried about your corners, then a two high shell, even if you're running man underneath, it's still, that's going to help eliminate some of the coverage flaws that they've had. It's really like in today's NFL, you really have to have your coverage dictated by your opponent, right? Yeah, and so often there's a lot of teams that they just want to run the scheme that they run. That's the way it's been in Detroit for 5 years. That's the mindset Shepard has had pretty much for the majority of the season. The difficult part is it's such offenses have become so complex that you can't just run one style anymore. You have to
Right.
be a little bit more adaptable. And so, I think that's what they need to do. Like this week, you don't want to stay too high because Aaron Rodgers is a guy who likes to take the underneath stuff.
Yep.
So if you're playing back, he's just going to continue to take the underneath stuff. It's also going to hurt your ability to stop the run, which is again something that the Steelers have done. Yet the last couple of weeks, when the Dolphins went cover one, or the when the Ravens ran almost exclusively cover one, Rodgers had his best yardage output games of the season. So it's you have to be able to
Yeah.
mix things up. Is I guess what I'm getting at.
Right.
You can't just run cover one, or Rodgers will. The last 2 weeks he's taken advantage. If you run cover two, it plays into what the Steelers do best. So you have to be creative. Rodgers is better against zone than he is against man. So you want to play a little bit more man. So maybe cover two man, cover one man. You have to be able to throw those disguises in there, and that's how you'll help out those outside guys.
Yeah, I mean, you tackled pretty much everything there. It's interesting because Dan has already talked about the Steelers a couple times this week, once on the radio, once on Monday, and both times he mentioned the fact that they run the ball in a similar fashion to the Rams, which is heavier personnel, duo, kind of using, something the Rams did that I thought like was just extremely effective was motioning a tight end inside and having them block like the A and B gaps. That's something that Pittsburgh's capable of doing because they have a monster of a tight end in Washington.
Yeah, look, the Rams run the most 13 personnel in the league. The Steelers run the second most 13 personnel in the league.
Right.
And the Steelers run the most sixth offensive linemen in the
Yes.
NFL
Yep.
as well.
Right.
So, like, what you're talking about is they go big in a lot of different ways. And they go big, we're talking like at least a third of the time, they're either 13 or with that extra OL. So, you're dead on. I just wanted to give some numbers to support that.
Right. And so by that you're probably thinking, okay, well, we have to play single high. We have to make sure our safety is involved in the run game just by pure numbers, right? If they're going to load the box with tight ends and extra offensive linemen, you need to have the numbers to counter that. Yet this team is not nearly as efficient running the football as the Rams are. Like, this is an average running attack. This is not an outstanding. This isn't the best one in the league. They've been held under 60 rushing yards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times this season.
DVOA is 12.
Yeah, so like the efficiency is a little bit there, but like the week to week production is not there. They're not going to run for 160 on you. And so like part of me is like, okay, maybe you do play like. Maybe you just play the number. And, like, they lost a guard on Monday night as well. I don't know what his outlook is because Mike Tomlin is very scant on details when it comes to injuries.
And they're playing with a replacement left tackle as well.
Right. So, like, that offensive front is nowhere near what the Rams are giving you. So, like, maybe you do risk a little bit more of just let's help out those safeties. Let's make sure DK doesn't beat us. Let's loosen the load a little bit off of those corners. But again, I'm with you that there needs to be a mix. There needs to be a balance.
That's another big key though, is that there's DK and then a bunch of old veterans or young inexperienced receivers.
Yep.
So you have one guy that you have to worry about as opposed to the Rams where you have two guys. And the last several opponents the Lions have had have been able to roll out two guys. True. And so it creates a different dynamic. And so you can't just play single high. You can't just play too high. You have to be able to intermix it. And that's what I'm hoping to see more of is more of disguise, more like we saw in Tampa. Now, even though you're going to have, your outside starting corners, that the disguise that they showed, that Tampa game was about as good as he's called a game this whole season, I'd say. And from a coverage standpoint. And so that's what I'm looking for. I'm hoping that they're starting to, just like a couple weeks ago when they scaled back their run defense to help the pass rush.
Right.
They went away from that a little bit this past week, at least in the second half.
Right.
And then I'm hoping to see them unlock the pass rush a little bit more and now make those adjustments in the secondary that they've been a little bit more reluctant to do.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. All right. Yeah, I mean, I'm button on it. The Steelers present a similar challenge to the Rams, but with worse personnel. Sure. And so, like, the hope is that you win your one-on-ones more than you did against the Rams. All right. Ben Hammond asks, with pretty much every edge on the roster outside of Hutchinson and Hassaneed hitting the open market, Marcus Davenport, Josh Paschal, Al-Qadim Muhammad, etc., do you think the Lions look to reshape that room with new faces via free agency in the draft, or do they run it back again with the same guys? Do you want to go one by one here with the guys that are facing free agency here?
Sure.
Marcus Davenport.
Who you want to start with? With Davenport, it's going to be money. They like what they do in the system. Obviously, there's an injury history that you have to be concerned with. But if he costs you less than $2 million, then you bring him back because that's affordable for what you're going to get. I don't think he's as impactful as a player as he was a year ago. Yeah. But from a cost perspective, they get a body that they like who fits the system, can play multiple spots in the system. And if he's less than $2 million again, I think they'd bring him back.
My answer is highly dependent on how he plays in these final 3 games, but right now I'm a no. Right now I'm a this is it's like an Emmanuel Mosley type of situation where it's like you had your 2 shots, you couldn't stay healthy. Sorry, buddy, it's not working out here.
Let me ask this before I get too far. Yeah. Are we sharing our opinion of what we do or what we think they're going to do? Because
that's a good question. Yeah. I mean, you can say both because I do think there's a chance that they do exactly what you said. I don't think they should, and I do. I'm actually leaning towards right now they would move on. I think at this point you've just given him enough chances, like you gave enough for Emmanuel Mosley, and that doesn't mean he's a bad player or it was a terrible decision because again, like he didn't cost you much this year either. But I think he has, unless he shows like extreme growth and maybe he's still shaking off the injury and rust and things like that, and he can explode here in the final 3 games. I'm not counting on it, but if it does happen, it can change my opinion and maybe change theirs. But I think at this point I'm out, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions were out too.
I have a gut feeling they'd be in at the right price.
Okay. Josh Paschal.
Again, I think it's really going to come down to price with him as well. If any of these guys are less than $2 million, I think they come back because they fit the system and they have versatility. At the same point, I don't know how you count on him. And we haven't seen him play this entire season.
Yeah.
We really don't know where he was at really at the end of last year. He's missed most of the season before that as well. So it's like you'd be offering him like a vet minimum in order to come back with not really many guarantees and then say, hey, come back, compete in camp, or, see if somebody else is willing to take a gamble on you.
Yeah, I think I'm willing to throw the vet minimum at Josh Paschal and be like, make the roster and see what happens, right? Like, not everyone you sign has to be a starter. Josh Paschal would not be a starter, right? Like that wouldn't be your plan A, probably wouldn't be your plan B, but like, could he be a rotational guy that you play a little bit on the inside, you play a little bit on the outside? Sure. I mean, why not? Go let him out there and compete for a spot.
Remember, we're going to need 90 guys,
right?
Right. So you're going to offer guys contracts to come in and compete.
Yes.
And so I think, if you can get them under $2 million for any of these guys, like I said, I think that's compete number. Yep. That's a compete salary type of.
I'm a little bit more lenient.
I think
towards Paschal because he's younger, right? Davenport's shown more in this league, but Paschal's a little bit younger. You can maybe just hope for a year 5 jump, I guess at this point. But Muhammad is a very different conversation because the question isn't, is he good enough to be on this 53 next year? I think the answer to that is probably yes. The question is, are the Lions going to be willing to pay what it takes to keep someone who is more than likely going to be a 10-sack guy this year?
The hard part with Muhammad is that he is going to be, is he going to be 31 or is he going to be 32? I'm going to look 31. It up real fast. Okay. That is going to be the biggest hang up with him
Right.
is he is
Yeah.
hitting
Turns
his
31 in
stride in
March.
this so he's hitting his stride in this scheme for certain, but he's also at a spot in his career where those numbers could dry up overnight,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
And so the Lions have really unlocked how to use him properly. I could see them if he was like 28, offer him 4 or 5 million. The fact that he's 31, I think that drops that number closer to like three, maybe four
You think you can have
max.
him that cheap? You don't think there's another team out there that would be paying? I mean, I
I
know it.
do. I do,
Okay.
but I don't know if the Lions can look, he's not their future,
Yeah.
right? He is
Correct.
a year or two that you at best you're going to get a year or two out of him. So he's not the long-term answer. They need to find a long-term answer or be looking at a potential long-term answer this offseason. They can't really go into this offseason and try and tread water. I mean, they could if they ran it back, right? But that's not really going to solve your problems. You would think that they would be looking at the draft, um,
Sure.
potentially with one of their first two picks, ideally, right? And you're going to invest in bringing more talent in at the position, so you can bring him back in a situational role, but like he's only playing like what 30 40 snaps a game, or 30 40% of his snaps a game.
Yeah.
He's now going to be 31 years old, and yes, he's coming off a career year. I just don't like, if someone else is going to have more money, they'll be able to outbid the Lions for sure, because the Lions won't.
Right. They're in savings. I mean, even putting aside the fact that they're only playing, even these last two games, it was 45, 46%, which are the pretty much the higher end games. There
Mhm.
was one where he's 66, 168% playing time. But yeah, like I don't know. Pass rush is such a valued commodity in this league that it would not
Sure.
surprise me at all if some team goes out and shells out 7, 8, 9 million a year for a guy who has
Mm.
10 sacks this year.
That's a lot. It's a lot. Like they got him for less than 1.2
Right.
this year.
Right.
And I don't remember how many sacks he had last year, but he was trending towards, having one of his better years last year. He just didn't
He had
have
three
the
in
time.
9 games, 3 in 9 games, and then 2021 he had 6. So
Mhm.
like
So it's
there's
not.
oh no, oh man, I'm dropping frames again.
Lions just won't do it. The Lions don't have the space. They really don't.
All right, I'm gonna push through some internet issues here and pretend like everything's okay. I don't know what this is gonna sound like on the podcast, but let's just move to the next question. Next question here comes from Aaron H., who says the defense has ranked in the bottom 10 in points allowed in 4 of the past 5 years under this regime. They're currently 23rd, so bottom 10, the 10th of the bottom 10. Says, why should fans have any hope they are capable of changing that moving forward?
Well, one, they they have talent. They have talent on that side of the ball. Two, they've shown that they hold off those numbers. They just now entered the bottom 10,
Right.
right? Like just now. Like they weren't bottom 10 before this week.
Yep.
So, and now their bottom 10 is because they've been declining because of injury. They've been declining for a variety of different reasons. But why should you have hope they're not going to end up being a bottom 10 moving forward? Because they're going to add more talent. They're going to continue to have talent. Who knows how they're going to make adjustments. You have a new coordinator who's in his rookie season,
Right.
who's now going to be more experienced. Like there are positive signs that this is a defense that can improve as time rolls on. Look, I know people hate the scheme. They have for 5 years, and I get it. So like I can sit here and say, oh, they'll change the scheme, and then that's what will magically solve all this. But it's not as simple as that. And so there's optimism though when you start thinking about how the experience, will come, how guys will come back from injury, and hopefully they continue to add more impactful talent. And where they add it, we'll see. But, we all have our opinions on where that comes from. I know what the majority of the fan base thinks, but what they think or what the Lions think, it doesn't always seem to align with what the fan base wants.
I'm going to give a very unsatisfactory answer to people, but I think it's
Cool.
the truth. Year to year defensive stability
Mhm.
does not exist. It is widely variable. You know, the one year in which they didn't place in the top 10 or bottom 10 in terms of scoring defense? Last year. Last year. They were a top 10 score. They were allowing in the 10th fewest amount of points per game last year. And then it swaps. Why does it swap? I mean, you can throw a bunch of reasons out there. I think maybe the most compelling one is you lose Aaron Glenn and you replace him with a first-time defensive coordinator. But you have your best defensive lineman for a full season this year, right? You have a better cornerback room. You do lose your safeties, which I think was a big change, and I think that's it. Like, the reason it switches every year is because of turnovers. Turnovers are the biggest key to having a low-scoring defense, and turnovers vary wildly week to week. And why did they have more, or year to year? Why did they have a lot more turnovers last year than this year? I can think of one person why. Kirby Joseph. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And the Lions aren't getting the kind of turnovers that they were last year, almost exclusively because Kirby's not playing right now.
Yeah. This is a scheme that depends very heavily on their safeties.
Yep. And so that has hurt them. Now, can I sit here and tell you, well, Kirby's going to be back next year and everything's going to be fine? Obviously, no. Like, I don't know what's going on with Kirby. I don't know what it means for his long-termness. I know there have been reports out there that say he's going to be fine. He just needs rest, or they'll do some sort of rehab next offseason and he's going to be fine. But certainly the discussions that have been had around that injury, including Dan Campbell saying, like, I don't know if that ever goes away, can't have you feeling extremely optimistic. And Brian Branch is now probably more likely than not to miss the beginning of next year, right? It's not, I can't snap my fingers and say everything's going to be okay next year, but I can also tell you that yes, there is a lot of year to year variance when it comes to defense in this league, and a lot of that is based on turnovers. And so if the Lions can get a year where the turnovers just come in bunches, like they keep saying it will, but it never actually happens this year, then they're going to be better. Like, I know that's not very scientific. I know that's not very, well, the Lions need to do this in the offseason and they need to do this with their scheme. But truth of the matter is this team has too much talent on the defensive side of the ball for them to rank in the bottom 10 of scoring. And so I think they won't next year, just because law of averages. All right. Do I want to fit one more in here before we take a break?
Sure.
Okay. I'm going to jump here because we got a couple offensive coordinator questions that I want to get to. So let's dip our toe into the offense with Fudd Meridian, who asks, looking at the past 3 games and 4 of their six losses, David Montgomery has been the far more efficient running back, able to consistently grind out good gains, while Gibbs has been boom or bust, but mostly bust. Why are they not using Demo more to set the tone they want in the run game?
The dynamic ability of Jahmyr Gibbs to house a run on any play, the adjustments that the defense needs to make when Gibbs is on the field versus Montgomery. I think it's just been a change in philosophy as well, to go out and put their faith in Gibbs to be a clear RB1. I agree. Montgomery has, from a statistical standpoint, he's been arguably the better runner over the last couple of games, but he just doesn't have he doesn't force the defense into mismatches, right? When you put Gibbs out on the field it makes defenses adjust, and it creates opportunities elsewhere. It gets you one-on-ones with JMO. It gets you one-on-ones with St. Brown because they have to roll a safety towards Gibbs to account for him. Because if you don't, he can gash you. So this is one of those situations in my mind where the impact of the player and his impact on all the people around him is a larger benefit than the statistical, success that Montgomery's having.
Yeah, I mean, in general, yeah, I want David Montgomery to get more carries. I think there is a physical element to what he does that is not only worth the yards that he gains, but like the wear and tear it makes on the defense, right? It wears them down towards the end of the game, and then you get a situation like week 1 in 2024 where Dave Montgomery just wins overtime for you. The problem is, and especially the problem when you just point to those games in which the Lions lost, is that they're not going away from David Montgomery because they don't like him. They're going away from David Montgomery because they're going away from that. Like, they need to play catch up, right? These games that they're losing, they need to play catch up in. I would have loved to see them use David Montgomery more against the Rams, but in a flash, they were down by 2 scores in the fourth quarter. They only had 9 plays in the third quarter. And at halftime, 6 rushes for Jahmyr Gibbs, 6 rushes for David Montgomery. Like, it was an even split. And so if that game had stayed closer for longer, you would have seen David Montgomery more. You would have seen them been able to, keep things a little bit more balanced and bleed more clock and keep the defense off the field. But the fact remains, like, if you want to go back and play, the hindsight game, like, okay, so their first offensive drive, they come out there, they run Jahmyr Gibbs, gains 5 yards on first down. Decent play. He gains 8 on the next, but it's holding penalty. So now you're in a 2nd and 15. Do you want to run David Montgomery on that play instead of Jahmyr Gibbs on a 2nd and 15? I think the answer is you probably don't want to run it at all, but they run Gibbs. And then it's 3rd and 9, you don't run the ball. Next time they come out, they throw a deep shot to JMO. You're already behind the sticks at that point. It's 2nd and 10. Do you want to run David Montgomery on a 2nd and 10? I don't like running on 2nd and long anyways. They get sacked, blah, 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 blah. So now you come out, 3rd series, Gibbs for 2. Okay, you can make the argument that should have been Montgomery. That's 1, maybe 2 carries. And then once that series is over, you're down 10 points and in the fourth quarter, and you're probably not looking to use Montgomery much at that point anyways, right? Like, you want Gibbs out there as a receiving threat, as a rushing threat. And so I think it's a little hindsight bias. And it feels like it was that way in a lot of these games where you're down 1 or 2 scores. You're trying to play catch up. You're trying to make sure that you don't fall behind because your defense isn't stopping anyone. And in those instances, you can't play the grinded out game that you want to. And then when you, the irony of it is these games that you get out to big leads and Jahmyr Gibbs is more explosive than David Montgomery. That's because David Montgomery is running late in the game and the teams know you're going to run the ball, and it looks like his efficiency is down when he's still doing the thing you want you to do, which is getting 3-4 yards a pop and running out the clock. And so it doesn't make a ton of sense, but I almost feel like the games in which David Montgomery is the most efficient in terms of like yards per carry tend to be those games where you don't use him much because when you do use him at the end of the games, it lowers his efficiency. The one exception being the Baltimore game, right? Like the Baltimore game where he just happened to have like 3 big explosive plays. So that's where I'm at. Like, I think we'd all like to see David Montgomery more, and the reason we saw a lot more of him last year is because they won 15 games. They were in the lead. They had control of the game in a game script way that allowed more David Montgomery. But when you're trailing for so much of the game, you're naturally going to have to drift away from him. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about the offense, about Dan Campbell's future as a play caller, and maybe if that's had any adverse effects on the other side of the ball. We'll talk a little bit of officiating, and we'll talk some defensive speed and creating havoc on defense. When we come back right here on the Midweek Mailbag, we'll be right back. All right, we're on break. Let's chat for a little bit. Not a lot of alerts to get to. I'll get to one or two here in a second, but I think some of you want to continue the discussion on the Demo stuff, and I'm more than happy to keep talking about that. QNote says that theory doesn't mesh with them running the ball to start the second half, though. Monty's usage has been the most head-scratching portion of the offense this season. I mean, you're right. Like, they certainly could have started the second half off with David Montgomery, but again, we're talking about like one or two plays. Maybe he runs it better in those situations, and those drives extend beyond 3 and outs. But that's also a really good run defense, so I'm not so sure. I mean, if you watched First Bite, I was actually the one advocating for like this maybe being more of a David Montgomery game because the Rams don't give up explosive plays on the ground. They didn't all season. They still haven't. But I do think like the opportunities are limited, and if we treat the game honestly, I don't know if there was more than an opportunity to get David Montgomery more than like 2 or 3 more carries than he got.
Hold on, I want to check something.
Okay.
When Gibbs is on the field, he faces a stacked box 20% of the time. When Montgomery is on the field, he faces a stacked box 36% of the time. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about like Gibbs makes you adjust.
Yeah.
Right? You can't just load the box when Gibbs is on the field because of his ability to go anywhere, like to line him up outside to do. When Montgomery is on the field, they know he's probably going to run it, and so they end up stacking the box at a higher rate.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I agree. He's been look. If you're starting out because I'm sorry, but if you're starting out the half or you're starting out the game, because people have asked this, if they want to establish the run, why are they not starting games with Montgomery? Why are they not starting games, halves with Montgomery? It's because they want the defense to be on their heels. They want their defense to be spread out. They want them back, and Gibbs forces them to sit and account. If you put Montgomery out there, they'll anticipate that you're going to run the ball more often than not right off the bat, and you want to have that. You want the defense back so that you can open things up and be creative with how you start, games and halves and stuff like that. That's why they've shifted towards Gibbs more this year in those early situations.
Why you threatening me with that baseball?
It's just my little
stress ball.
More or less. It's just a ball, like a little sponge ball that I bought for Georgia.
Nice. We got a $2 super chat from Visionary Roar. Says, do you feel we should pass to open up the run?
I mean, you could. I think every situation is different. If you want to establish the run with power, then Montgomery is your obviously your best answer. If you want to, you could try spreading them out and then running Gibbs into a light box. You could try, shorter passes with your yak to then put them on there, get those 2 safeties back. Like if you start hitting JMO on 15-yard ins, they're going to start putting safeties back. That opens things. That'll open the run up as well. Like there's lots of different ways. I don't think there's just like one answer that you should go with. I think you should be open to those situations every game. Yeah.
And right. It definitely depends on the opponent. It feels like that was kind of what they were doing in the first half against the Rams. Goff threw it 22 times I think in the first half. Or he had 220 passing yards and 3 touchdowns in the first half. And then I think Dan Campbell made the wrong decision to come out in the second half and say, "Hey, we got to establish the run now." I get why he did it. Like he wanted to do the exact opposite of what ended up happening, which was slow down the game, limit possessions, keep Matthew Stafford on the sidelines. Unfortunately, it's a really freaking good defensive line, and your run game did the exact opposite of its intention of getting off the field incredibly fast, due to a holding, due to a negative or 2-yard run, and that was that. But I don't know. You can't live necessarily by the analytical model of like every passing play is worth more EPA than every run play, so you should pass it all the time. Like that's taking analytics too far, which is something I'm probably guilty of doing every now and then. But sometimes you have to play to your own strengths. And to me in that game, it was the passing game. And I just felt like I felt like passing to set up the run was the right option. Like pass on first down, get into a second and medium, second and manageable, and then consider running a play on 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, or run play action off that. Like not saying that like gaining 5 yards on a passing play on first down is automatic, but it felt like it was more attainable than running on first down.
This is the number one scoring offense in the NFL. Just so we remind everyone, just so we're all on the same page.
And they scored more points against the Rams than literally any other team this year.
Yeah. They score the 4th most offensive yards per game. They're 2nd best in yards per play. Their EPA is 4th best in the NFL.
The success rate is a little low, though, which means you're living off of explosives, which is fine if you can consistently do them.
They're second best in red zone scoring. Like
that's true. Dang, I didn't realize that was that true.
Yep.
Oh,
they don't turn the ball over. Top 5 in turnover differential.
That helps a lot too.
Yep. Top 10 in penalties, believe it or not.
That penalties again? What do you when you say top 10? Does it mean fewest penalties or most?
Penalty? Like they average just 6.1 penalties per game, which is
fewest.
9th best. Yes,
okay.
9th fewest.
Got.
Again,
go ahead.
We're kind of spoiled, and
for sure. But at the same time, like we know that was the moment in which the Lions lost the game is when they went 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. Like you can't have that happen.
Sure, they went away from what they were doing.
Yeah.
Best.
Right. Yeah. And so I think it's fair to criticize that little section of the game, even though you should also maybe acknowledge or celebrate the fact that like they were also outstanding in the first half.
Yeah. That's the thing I think we forget sometimes.
Yeah. Fair. All right, let me get to some more alerts here real quick. Yevitz, thank you for the 50 months subscribed on Twitch. Fernicus, thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Justin B, also thank you for subscribing on YouTube. Chelsea U, also just subscribed on YouTube. YouTube popping off today. You know what? Really, YouTube has been popping off the last 2 streams. Appreciate you guys on YouTube. We got a ton of super chats yesterday. We've already got a couple today. Our numbers are bumping up. You know what? I take that as solace in you guys are searching for someone who isn't just screaming their heads off and saying fire everybody, which I'm not saying there are people out there doing it. I don't know. But I'm going to take it as, we're a little bit of your therapy, but we're not medical professionals. Let me also make that clear.
Not licensed
or unlicensed. Well, I have a psychology degree, but I don't think that's coming in handy at the moment. No rules. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Says the Rams gave up 26 unanswered points to the Eagles earlier in the year. Okay. I mean, I don't remember the context to all of that, but sure. They had one other moment in which their defense wasn't great. Okay. I don't know what that was all the way back in week 3. And if I'm not mistaken now, are you counting the blocked field goal return for a touchdown that won them the game? I forgot about that.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
I mean, listen, the Eagles went 5 plays, 79 yards, 13 plays, 87 yards, turnover on downs, 17 plays, 91 yards. So, yeah, I mean, they scored 21 straight points. That also include two blocked field goals in that time. Alan Lazard just released. Wonder what team claims him.
This Steelers team, some of their decision making has been very interesting.
Oh, my point was that the Lions giving up 17 points isn't the worst. That's fair. Oh, well, yeah, I mean, we were just talking about it yesterday. They just recently added Marquise Valdez Scantling, right?
Off their practice squad, yeah.
Was that an elevation or was that a signing to the 53?
Signing to the 53. They had been elevating him, and then they decided to sign him.
Gotcha.
I think they ran out. I'm not 100% if they ran out, but they decided that he was playing better than their younger guys. Roman Wilson has fallen out of favor.
Yeah, did they
massively
cut him or he was inactive, right?
Yep, healthy scratch the last 2 weeks. He was starting, then he got replaced by nobody, and then when they claimed Thielen, he dropped down even further. Then now Scanling's pushed him down even like. They don't have he's a speed guy, and they don't throw the ball down the field except to DK, and then he fell out of favors with Rodgers, and so then right. All teams that employ the devil, they do what he wants, and then all of your young talent that you've been trying to develop, they get put on the shelf and probably will get cut. And you kill a 3rd round pick because you're, doing what the old man wants. So,
yep.
I hope they cut him. I hope so.
Why? Because you want to free the Michigan man?
100%. I'm glad he's not playing. Won't be infected.
Lupe Lines, just a $10 super chat. You just missed our conversation on this, Lupe. I don't want to get too much more into it just for everybody else's sake, but if you want to rewind, ask, do we know why the Lions are not using Demo? I feel like we are trying to push Gibbs even if he's not getting much success. Demo does not seem happy at all. In terms of his disposition, he's kind of a hard guy to read. Because in general, he's just kind of he's got a tough outer shell. He just does at all times.
If you watch any of his off-season stuff, because he did podcasts with a lot of former players and stuff like that, he has a very tough shell. But you'll also recognize the fact that he's known that Gibbs is the best running back in the NFL for a while now.
Yeah.
And he's saw this coming. This isn't a surprise to him. And I don't think he's as I don't think you can read his sideline mannerisms and make an accurate conclusion on where he's at. That's just kind of how he is, He's very business. He treats it, like he's got to work his tail off every day, and he does. But I mean, he's been talking about Gibbs being the next best back in the NFL for a couple of years now. The usage shift surely has not surprised him.
Yeah. I mean, listen, is there a possibility he's frustrated? Yeah, of course. The run game isn't as good as it was last year. 2, he's not getting as involved as he was last year. And even if he saw that coming, it's probably not a pleasant experience to go from key contributor to 7 touches a game, right? That's going to be frustrating. Go from 18 touchdowns or whatever he had last year to whatever he's got this year, 6 or whatever. It's natural for that to be disappointing or frustrating, especially when the wins aren't coming too, right? Especially when you're on the verge of being eliminated. But I wouldn't mistake frustration or disappointment with like anger at anybody. Do you think he's like yelling at Tashard Choice to get him out there more, or yelling at Dan Campbell, or yelling at Scotty Montgomery?
He literally just did Choice's
Right.
touchdown celebration, right?
Right.
Like
yeah. I think people tend to read into some social media posts too. Like I've already seen people screenshot, he put an Instagram thing of stay the course 5 and 44 minutes ago, even the steps backwards were a part of the dance. Like that one actually seems more optimistic. So I don't know.
I stop trying to analyze people's social media. That's
right.
It's just,
yeah,
don't,
but
you're wrong like 90% of the time.
But Lupe, if you do want to go back to, I mean, we literally just talked about it for about 15 minutes about the opportunities that arise, why they favor Gibbs, and I think we both do agree that like it would be nice to see a little bit more of Demo to set the tone early in games while we're in an even script where the lines aren't falling too far behind and things like that. But I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. You see a lot more of Demo when you're playing with a 2-score lead, and the Lions haven't been playing with a lot of 2-score leads this year. I think that's it in terms of alerts. Shredder's Rage, did I get to you? Thank you for the 22 months. If I didn't, then
Shredder just asked a question about, is Watt going to play this weekend? I have no idea.
Yeah, I also have no idea.
He required surgery. He required surgery to repair that lung. To repair the lung. Yeah, that's what JJ said.
That's crazy. Yeah. Well,
so
the one thing to keep in mind is that Mike Tomlin does not provide a ton of information on injuries. Mm-hmm. So that's one where you're just gonna you're gonna have to wait for JJ to tweet something or.
So I had when I was younger, I had an accident where they were worried that I punctured my lung because I was impaled with something like up here, and TJ was actually hit his lung and like nicked it apparently.
Right. I heard that.
My experience is that when my incident happened, I couldn't raise my arm over my shoulder for almost a week. And I didn't actually nick the lung. But I mean, I had to have I have a nice, pretty good scar here, but like if they had to, depending on where it was, I don't know where the location of it was,
right.
But if they had to go in and repair it, like that's rough. Now these NFL players are wildly more prepared. Wildly more prepared, and their bodies are even. This is when I was younger, but their bodies are, obviously better prepared. But I can tell you when I almost nicked mine, it was rough. It was a tough recovery.
Yeah.
At least, especially that first week, for sure.
Sorry. I just got distracted on Twitter where someone is blaming me for the constant bad calls against the Lions.
Why is the media getting blamed for everything lately?
I don't know.
I don't understand that. Excuse me.
We're going to talk about it at the end, but I rewatched the Parkinson thing over and over again this morning.
Oh man.
And I came to the conclusion of I understand why they didn't overturn anything, which is because there wasn't anything clear and obvious about it. And that's what replay is for, right? Replay is for overturning things that are clear and obvious. And to me, unfortunately, there were just no good camera angles of anything clear and obvious. and whatever was called on the field was going to stand. And I get the response, this type of attitude from Lions beat reporters is why these calls keep happening. Which is just like, what? Referees. What, because I'm not holding them accountable? Like, it's my job to hold officials accountable?
Yeah,
like,
no,
I don't...
That's Nolan and Colton's job.
It seems... I'm not going to point fingers to anybody because on the road it's completely different situation. But I was a little bit disappointed that no one got a pool report from the officials after that game.
That's because the LA media is corrupt and they don't want the referee.
Yvitz, the officials did not say that. That's what Yvitz says, but they said he lost and regained control. The officials didn't say any of that.
That's Blandino's speculation.
Yes. All the officials said was the play stands. And that's all that they told Dan. That's what Dan said. Is like, they just told me that the play stood.
That's... Okay. If there's going to be a question, I don't want to...
Yeah.
I'll
we should... That's my fault for bringing it into and getting distracted by Twitter. But yes. Yeah, sorry guys for the bad officiating. I never call out officiating, ever. I always say that it was a very well officiated game. And I don't tweet out about obvious missed holds on Derek Barnes or obvious missed holds on Rock Ya-Sin on an end around. I don't tweet it or say any of that stuff.
That JMO back of the end zone non-pass interference was wild.
That was the worst.
You could have called it. You could have called it twice.
Right. He was getting tugged on, and then he got like
run into.
The run into one is a little
okay. Again,
is a little bit interesting.
So I'm going to be.
Well, no, we can talk. We can talk about that one specifically really quick because the one where like I agree on the tug, the getting run into one is interesting because he's going for the football, right? The defender is leaping up to go for the football. He is.
His back is to the ball. He didn't turn and look. He just ran through him.
Now I need to pull this play up.
Yeah,
I don't know where I can find it.
Pull it. Just JMO pass interference. Non-call.
I don't know if I'm going to find it on Twitter with that. Yeah, I don't know. If someone has a clip of it, throw it in the chat. Because that's not my memory of the play, but I admit I could very much be remembering it wrong. Can we also admit that the one that they actually called on Amon-Ra St. Brown was kind of bad?
That's because that was a makeup call for the one they missed earlier. Honestly, I said to Laura, when they missed the call on second down, I said, she was like, why is that not pass interference? And I'm like, I don't know, it should be. I said, but don't worry, they're not going to let the Lions kick a field goal in this situation. They will call a pass interference on one of the next two downs to make up for the call. And then
so you got the script.
Yeah, because it's the NFL script. Oh crap, I missed one. Now I got to call one that's close in order to make up for the one that I very obviously missed.
Yeah, I can't find it. It's fine. True traveling. I don't disagree that there's a clear angle of Parkinson not maintaining control. The problem is there's no evidence. There's no absolutely clear evidence of the ball hitting the ground. And that's the problem. That's what was missing. If there's at any point one clear angle that shows that football on the ground, it's an incomplete pass. It's not down at the one. It's not a touchdown. It's an incomplete pass. But what Blandino argued is the only thing that we saw, which was the ball was loose. At one point, he does corral it while already down on the ground in the end zone, and so that's most likely why they upheld it or couldn't overturn it. Okay, I want to save the rest of the discussion on that play until we get back onto the show real quick.
Hold on. Hold your horses.
No, I mean, if you want to talk the JMO thing, yes. But I think...
Check your Slack.
Okay. Oh, rate the refs. Good old rate the refs. Do I want to show this on stream, or are we going to get demonetized? I definitely want it muted either way. Okay, you're right. Okay, you're
right. He doesn't turn his head until after contact.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that should be pass interference.
There was a tug initially off the line.
Yep.
And then a tug halfway through the route, and then the straight run into the guy just ran right into him. There's at least 2 incidents where you could have called the flag. Or you just put it in the Slack. There you go. Or put it in the chat. There you
go. What? Not that it. I mean, it kind of matters, but not that it really matters in whether this was the right or wrong call. But how did this series end? Did they score a touchdown anyways? I feel like they did, but I don't know for sure.
I don't even remember.
There's a field goal?
Yeah.
Well, then you can complain about that one. That one you can bank as a legit complaint.
They just put the flags away, man. What I felt like once it was clear they weren't going to call the ticky-tacky stuff, which they did early for whatever reason.
Yeah.
The aggressive defense started showing up on both sides of the ball a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more handsy and a little bit more tuggy. And yeah,
I don't think that was, no, I think that resulted in a touchdown. I think that was right at the end of the game, right? Fourth quarter.
I don't remember.
Because I'm just looking at the play-by-play, and the only goal-to-go situation in which I see them throwing to JMO was a 2nd and goal with 3 minutes left. Then they threw to, it was because they got, you said it, like they got that Amon-Ra pass interference.
Was that the next play?
2 plays later, because they threw the weird like fade to Slaw where Slaw couldn't get off the press coverage. Then they go to Amon-Ra, get the defensive pass interference, and score a play later. So it would have saved him. It would have saved him 2 plays. It would have saved him 20 seconds, which could have been the difference.
Give me those 20 seconds back. Everybody back on the field.
Yeah. Anyways. You guys want to jump right back in? I'm not seeing a ton of questions, which is fine. We're also just talking about things. If you want, I'll give you guys a couple minutes here to ask questions. And if not, we'll just jump right back in, talk some officiating, talk some other stuff. We'll be fine. Everything good. Make sure I'm caught up on alerts as well. Yeah, we're good. Now that I've lost all my football betting for the year, should I bet the Pistons? Yeah, just bet your way out of a hole. That's usually how it works.
I think that's what the commercials say to do, right?
That's right. You know what makes me laugh about all of the gambling commercials is that, like, all the promos that you see on those commercials, they're all like for new subscribers only. For new I'm like, who is just joining sports betting now? Like, who is, you know what?
The casual fan.
I've been on the fence about sports gambling, but after the 5,000th ad, I think I'm in. Or, I mean, I think the real reason you do those commercials is because you see that and you're like, oh man, I get a $500 bet with a $10 deposit. Okay, I'm going to do that. Then you open up the app and you're like, where's this deal? I just deposited 10. Where's my 500 free bet? And you miss the fine print that says new accounts only. That's how they get you, Eric.
I just think they want to remind people to bet. That's it.
I think it's for people who have new bank cards and new addresses to make new accounts. Maybe. Or people who just turn, what is it? Is it 18 or 21? Probably depends on the state. Definitely depends on the state.
I think it's 18. Right?
Great.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I've had to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, Detroit, thank you for the 76 months subscribed on Twitch. Here we go again. Asks, who do you think will be in the Super Bowl from both conferences? We talked a little bit about this last night.
The Lions and the Bills. That was my preseason prediction. No reason to back off now.
No reason? None. No reason.
No reason. I'm still good.
I think if I had to pick right now, like I said yesterday, I think the chalk answer is just like Bills Rams, right? That feels like maybe the best two teams, but obviously the Patriots very much belong in the conversation.
Denver's fun.
They were my AFC Super Bowl pick. I don't want to get into my NFC Super Bowl pick. They're still alive. And as I wrote, there's one very specific scenario in which they could get eliminated this week.
That ain't going to happen.
No, it's not. Thoughts on J.J. McCarthy? Do the Lions get swept by the Vikings? I don't think so, but if they do, it's not going to be because of J.J. McCarthy. It's going to be because
they just lost Grenard.
Yeah, they did for the season.
That's going to help.
Listen, I think with young quarterbacks, we tend to swing wildly in both directions after every single game, right? Like through 6 games, he was producing the worst EPA almost ever for a young quarterback, even a rookie quarterback. And then he goes out and beats up on a terrible Washington defense and a terrible Cowboys defense. And suddenly it's like, oh, the Vikings are starting to figure it out. J.J. McCarthy's starting to figure. It's like, okay, relax. Let's see him go against a real football team. Not that you're going to see that necessarily this week against the Giants.
Oh boy! But
that's going to be outdoors in New York. I don't know. I can't remember if the Giants have a good defense or not. I don't think they do. No,
their run defense is. Remember, Gibbs ran for 250 on them.
Yeah. I forgot their run defense is Garbo. So, yeah. So and listen, like, he could play really well in that game, and I can't sit here and pretend like the Lions defense is outstanding. But I think what the Lions can do is make that team one-dimensional. They really made them one-dimensional in that game, however many weeks ago. McCarthy just made a couple of really big throws in really big moments. I guess they didn't make them one-dimensional. They ran the ball way better than I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't like that.
That was one of our complaints.
Yeah. Oh, right. That's a game where Shep was like, well, if you take away these 3 plays. And then I was like, yeah, but if you take down the kneel downs too.
Can't believe you hate him so much.
I mean, it's just a garbage argument. I don't hate the person. I hate bad arguments. Listen, I'm Mr. Take away this big run, and what did you do for me? But I also acknowledge if you're going to do that, you have to take out the runs that aren't even runs. They're kneel downs. That can't count. You can't say, well, we only have 3.9 per carry if you're counting 4 kneel downs in a game.
It's like Gibbs yards before contact.
Yeah, I can't use that stat.
Yes, you can.
No,
I tell
you
you
can't.
Why?
Well,
Okay.
yes. I read your keys to the game where you said even if you take away these, you're still blah, 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 blah.
He still leads the NFL if you take away the 90-yarder and the 70-yarder.
Okay, but what about like the other 3 40-yarders where he's getting untouched?
Come on. Come on.
I'm just saying you can manipulate stats. as someone who writes a preview that's entirely stat driven. I don't try to manipulate them, but it's why I just like. Let me ask you this, because I've gotten a lot of this in my comments. Have you lost faith or any sort of respect for DVOA this year?
No. It does. I feel like there's always one team who is like an outlier
Yeah.
in like their record doesn't match their efficiency. I feel like the 49ers were like that. Was it last year? There's always at least one team that like their record doesn't match their efficiency.
Right.
And so it happens to be the Lions this year. I think it was the 49ers the year before that. I'm trying to remember who it was. But I still think the ideology behind it is pretty solid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My only reservation here is, to me, the defensive stats just don't match, and I don't know if it's a reliance on early numbers a little bit too much. I know that I think
it's that they play good opponents, good offensive opponents of late.
Yeah, that is.
And so they, like after the Rams game, what did we say? If you watched the Rams game, you kind of expected them to be able to do this because they've been doing this to everybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that component of it, saying, oh, yeah, you gave up a lot of points and a lot of yards, but yeah, you're supposed to, because this Rams team's been killing people like that.
Yeah. Detroit.
Yeah, the schedule, I think, is really a huge component in, and I even talked about it, like I even mentioned it in the PODD postgame, and is that I didn't put as much stock into this schedule being as tough as it was, and now it's like I really think it played a bigger factor than I anticipated. What's that?
Michael in our YouTube chat says I lost faith in DVOA when Peter Bukowski started using it to justify all of his bad takes. That's funny. So according to DVOA, the Lions have faced the 7th toughest schedule when it comes to their defense, meaning they've played the 7th toughest offensive schedule, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Their future schedule against offenses in their 3 remaining games,
low,
24th.
Well, minus, because you only got one really good offense that you got to like account
for. Right, and DVOA is actually not that high on the Bears' offense.
Right.
They're high on the running game
because of Caleb's
inconsistency.
He's not consistent. Yep.
Yeah. Let me see where they are. Chicago. Is this overall DVOA? This is. Oh man, they've moved all the way into 11th. No, this is offense. So they got the 4th best rush offense, 12th best passing offense, 11th overall. That sounds about right to me. Their overall DVOA is pretty low though, because their defense. Man, if the turnover well dried up even a little bit for that defense, they'd get exposed. 22nd in DVOA. But anyways, I was going to say
happen at any time. That's the beauty of it.
True. The Lions' defensive DVOA doesn't make much sense to me. Like the fact that they have the 7th best pass defense DVOA, that doesn't make sense to me. I can't even justify it. It's not like they're getting a bunch of big plays. I think their success rate is maybe better than what you would expect, and that's probably what's driving it low. But I just would expect, with the amount of explosive plays that they're continually giving up, that I thought that would drive the pass defense DVOA down. But again, like you said, maybe it's just a matter of you're playing a lot of good passing offenses. Yeah,
and the work you put in at the beginning of the year is offsetting it too a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me look at success rate really quick, just because success rate is really the one that I've been starting to gravitate towards more, because I think it just shows you a level of consistency. It gives more context to yardage and like pulls back a little bit on some of the explosive plays that tend to like skew some data. Because like you never really want those outliers doing a bunch of heavy lifting. Yeah, okay, so like their drop back success rate is actually 12th. It's 12th best. So, I don't know. It's really interesting to me. I think maybe we just... to me, it's like they're better than... I wonder if there's a way I can just separate early downs from late downs. Because I feel like first and second down, I bet their pass defense is actually pretty good. Third and fourth down, I think, is where it's killing them. Something I'd have to look into. Because that's where it feels like by my eye test. And if I'm not mistaken, something like success rate doesn't differentiate between first, second, third, and fourth down. It doesn't like more heavily weigh third or fourth down.
Can you hear my dog?
Mm-mm.
She's about a foot away from my mic, snoring about as loud as she can. She is snoring. Holy cow.
Can I sort what on a different site? NFL Pro might be able to do down success rate. Although I don't think they do passing success rate, do they, on defense? Pass defense. Yeah, they don't have success rate. I use rbsdm.com. Oh, you do? Oh, they do have downs on RB. All right, let me look at this real quick. Sorry. And, I'll just show it on screen so you can see what I'm doing. This is a really cool site. I enjoy this site. I use it a lot. You can go week to week. You can change the weeks. You can change the downs. You can change the quarters, blah, 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 blah. And it gives you EPA, dropback success rate, rush, EPA, rush success rate. So anyways, we're on defense. We're on first and second down. Dropback success rate. They're 6th. Okay. So that kind of lines up with what I'm thinking. Now if we change it to third and fourth down. Why aren't we updating? There we go. Aha! Aha! I knew it. 25th in success rate on third and fourth down. Their EPA is terrible on third and fourth down. So what does that mean, chat? It means get your pass rush going. Wait, let's go back to first and second down real quick. This is all 4 downs. Anyways, if you're interested in playing around with these on your own, I highly recommend the site. It gets a little buggy at times. Let me pull up one more time. So this is first and second down. Oh no. Come on. Success rate overall, 8th on first and second down. That includes 6th. Oops. Talking about buggy. 6th. Get out of here. In dropback success rate, the run defense success rate has not been great all year. 19th. And then dropback EPA 10th, rush EPA 13th. Anyways. All right. Enough of that. We should get back into it. Jay's jump is being... Whoa! Just did that thing again.
What's wrong?
Just did that thing again where for some reason all the YouTube comments came in at once. And blocked out all of the Twitch ones that had just came in. I was just reading someone's Twitch comment and it got blown out. And now I can't scroll up and find it. It's something about Shepherd Scheme.
Oh. I didn't see that one. The other one that I wanted to quickly address was Arctic says,
Yeah.
I know it's been talked about, but do you feel like the Lions need to modify their practice routine due to all the injuries, or is it just bad luck? The practice schedule that they have is actually much lighter than I think what people think. They're only allowed a certain number of practices that they can have padded, um, just like the rest of the NFL. So it's not like they are suiting up every
Yeah.
practice and
Right. They
trying to
only get
like
like
hammer
8
things up
padded practices a year or
a
something like that.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Once the season
Um,
starts. Now,
I
if go ahead.
I was gonna say I do think the Lions playing on Thursdays and playing primetime games, that routine of that practice schedule has thrown things off a little bit, and that makes things a little bit wonkier. But I don't think it's necessarily like what most people think when they ask a question like this, that the practices are too hard or too intense, and that's what's leading to the injuries. There is an argument to be made that maybe they've had too many walkthroughs because of the Thursday games, or maybe the different times, and then not and state getting out of the routine. Like
I mean, that's
those may
that would be
factor
really
in.
interesting if someone put out a study there of like injuries
Yeah,
and amount of short weeks or amount of primetime games or amount of like
yeah,
not playing on a consistent schedule.
yeah. I don't know the answer, but like that's something I've speculated on.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think like I mean, because we've even heard it from some players before when they come to Detroit, they're like, "Wow, the intensity of these practices are more than I'm used
a
to."
lot of that's training camp, though. Like
Right,
that's
right,
mostly in training camp. You hear that they run a tough training camp. But like a lot of the injuries they have during the season, like those aren't practice related. I've heard people argue the turf, and maybe it is the turf, but there's also a lot of teams that play on grass that have a lot of injuries this season as well.
yeah,
Plus, the Lions just replaced the turf 2 years ago. The most logical answer that I agree with actually comes from Justin Rogers, who suggests that the Lions have built their team with a bunch of players that want to go out all out every single rep,
yeah.
and
Smash people.
that can lead to injuries.
Right,
If you're constantly, but like that's a player's mentality. Like I don't know how you can't ask them to turn that off,
right, and
right?
you don't
And
want
if
to
you
either.
do, exactly. And if you do, then that's gonna carry over into the game because you play like you practice, right? And so I do think the majority of the time injuries are luck. But there are other probably mitigating factors, but not necessarily like one thing that you can point to. I know a lot of people want to point at the training staff and be like, the medical staff and be like, they're not doing their jobs properly. How do we know? How do we like? That's just
Right,
trying to assign blame
right.
to find an easy answer. Um, they run all kinds of medical checks on these players. They wear those sensors
Yeah,
during practice so that they're getting real time data. They know when their heart rates are elevated too much. They know when their muscles are getting too strained. They know when they're if they're not giving their full all or if they're giving too much. They know all these things that all the new age teams are. They have all that data, all that information, and I think a lot of it's luck, some of it's mentality, maybe some of it's turf, but it's also grass. I don't think
yeah,
many injuries. There are occasional injuries at practice. Most injuries are happening during the game. In the case of like Kirby doesn't want to have surgery on his knee. He thought he could come back. And so like he's been that knee injury's been lingering all season. If he has surgery, would that have improved it earlier? Would he have been able to come back, or would it have ended the season? Is surgery even an option
right.
with the situation
Seems
that
like it's
he
not.
has? Well, that's the thing, right? Like we don't know all of these things, so there's not one real like easy answer. If there was, teams would would pay for that. You know what I mean?
I think what's not sitting with fans this year, and I can understand why, is like just some of the oddities. It's not even the fact that there's a lot of them. It's the oddities of how does Levi Onwuzurike have an ACL and no one noticed it? How does this Kirby situation continue to linger? Listen, I know there's some things and things that we can't completely talk about, but like from the outside looking in, I can understand the frustration of just like weird situations that happened with injuries this year, where it was just like, this doesn't make sense. Why are they like this? Why? I'm trying to think of others. I know there are at least 2 or 3 other ones that were just like, this is strange. Frank's was obviously weird and strange, but I don't think you can blame it. Like, it happened.
He's had so many.
Frank, his situation was weird. It's obviously not the Lions' fault because his training to come back was not even on site.
Right.
There was another one that I was thinking of that I can't remember now, but I don't know. It's looked weird. The optics of it has been weird. But again, I'm with you, which is like, I can't criticize a training staff when I'm not seeing what they're actually doing and what they're not doing, right? Like, I don't understand their job well enough to know if they're doing it right or wrong. So I would just be blindly throwing blame at them.
And you also have to keep in mind, because like I see the question here, like, do you think they're playing guys that are banged up early, maybe more frequently than they should? Every guy is hurt right now. It's just at how much they're hurt is how much the players want to tell you, right? Yeah, they know their bodies. And so they're going to say, yes, I can do it. No, I can't. I can deal with this little lingering thing. And then maybe they come back too early. I can think, you got Decker's shoulder. Yeah. They mentioned Sewell's ankle. Yeah. Baki's hamstring, Kirby's knee, like all of those things, you can put some of those arguments on. Did they come back too early? Did they not?
Right. But there's obviously a little bit of doctor responsibility there based on the information that they can get outside of the player telling them things. But ultimately a player can lie, right?
Right. Because you got to remember, some of these guys, it's a pride thing. Yep. Like they don't think they think they're impenetrable. And then 2, some guys, not like the Sewells and the Deckers but some of these guys will play through injuries because if they don't, they'll lose their job. Right. Right. And so then that's the big problem with sports and for years.
Yes.
For years.
It's a culture problem, right?
Yeah. Right.
And yes, like, doctors have a responsibility to protect players from themselves, but they can but you can only get as much, like, a certain amount of information from an MRI or your own tests, right? Like, at some point you have to trust the players to tell you the truth because you don't know how much pain they're going through.
Well, it's like why Thomas was kept out with a concussion. Right. They didn't play him to protect himself. He practiced and they let him practice limited, but they said, you're not cleared to go full go.
Yeah. And so in a lot of times over the past 3 or 4 years, we've been like, wow, that guy still isn't playing. They must be like making sure he's really not, going to re-injure something, right? Like, a lot of times we've said the Lions usually take the conservative estimate of how long a player is going to take. If they're coming off an ACL, it's going to take maybe closer to the 10 or 12 months than it is the 8 or 9 months, because the Lions want to make sure that they're putting a guy out there that, what do they keep saying about Kirby? Part of the reason Kirby can't keep going back out there is because he doesn't have the strength in his knee to protect it. We need to make sure he's got enough strength and mobility in that knee to protect it. And they probably, they clearly thought
Kirby not playing is not a Kirby decision. That's a Lions decision. Yeah. Make no mistake. If Kirby had a chance to play, he would be playing. He would put a brace on, or he would do something. He wants to play, and they are keeping him from playing. And I think people have that flipped. I think people are saying the Lions, put Kirby in a bad situation. Right. I guess you can make that argument, but at the same time,
the Chiefs game optics were tough, right? Because he goes into that medical tent, he can barely make his way in there, and then he comes out and plays like the final quarter of that game.
But like what we saw it in person the next week,
Yeah.
right? Where he was limping again in that Bucks game, and then we saw him go into the locker room. We saw him come back out, and he looked fine. Like
Right.
he looked totally fine. You could
What is
see
that
him
though? Like, is that them shooting him up with Teradol? Like, if that's
I
the
don't
case,
know.
that doesn't seem great. We're like, you're
Right, but we have no idea.
right.
We don't know if that's what's happening. Like,
Yeah,
that's speculation based
for
on,
sure. Yep.
history,
Yeah.
probably, right?
League history, right? Yes.
Yeah, league history,
Yeah.
right? But like it's been certainly weird.
Yeah.
But you could see him like pleading his case. We watched him. We watched him plead with the trainers, and the trainers say no, and then plead and plead and plead and say no, and then you can see him. He's sprinting, he's cutting, he's doing, and then like you're looking at him and you're like, geez, he's looks like he's fine now.
Right.
And even though he's not, and so I don't know. I don't know. It's a maddening part of covering the sport, the injury aspect.
No doubt.
Because there's no answers.
Nope. And listen, I mean, I think this past week was again a very big reminder that it's not just a Lions problem, right? Like the Packers got hit by it real hard this week. The Rams got hit by it hard in that game. The Chiefs, obviously, you lose Patrick Mahomes. The Vikings went through a couple.
Yep. Gernard was playing with an injury.
Yep.
And then he aggravated it to the point where they had to shut him down. He thought he could play through it. Like it's the exact same kind of scenario that with the Vikings that we've just been talking about. Like these guys,
except they're also out of the playoffs, and so it's probably easier to shut someone down.
Well, right.
Yeah. Anyways, I think it's time to get back into it. Hope you guys appreciated that conversation. Purple Yosh, thank you for gifting a sub as well. Appreciate that. All right, let's get back into it. Let me pull up my questions. Get back to where. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh yeah, we got plenty. Great. Here we go. And we are back here on the Midweek Mailbag talking Lions. Week 16, 3 weeks left. Pushing, making a playoff push here. But let's talk a little bit about next year. Because people are already looking ahead. And Alan Hemming on Twitter asks, would Mike McDaniel be a good fit for offensive coordinator / play calling next year?
I'm going to say no. And I know that's... It goes against what the Lions, I think, are trying to accomplish with Jared Goff. Now, you could say there's some crossover between the system. Like, okay, so let me go into the coaching trees here for a second.
Sure.
Goff learned his success under McVay.
Yep.
McDaniels and McVay basically come from the same Shanahan coaching tree. They've worked together in Washington under Mike Shanahan with, Kyle Shanahan and McVay and all those, the McVay tree. So McDaniels is his offensive philosophy still falls under kind of that McVay, LaFleur umbrella, Shanahan umbrella. When Goff started to succeed, it was when he kind of went away from that and he got more into the what Ben Johnson has essentially created. Right. It's more Gruden-esque than McVay, even though there's some crossover between Gruden and the McVay tree, like if you go far enough back. But there's enough philosophical differences that I do think there's not, like, it's not a clean fit. So if you're like, hey, let's keep Goff in this system, keep the system the way it is, it's not entirely a smooth fit stylistically. 2, the Dolphins' offense hasn't really been great.
It's been terrible the last 2 years.
Right.
Ranked 23rd in points this year, 22nd in points last year. They were second the year before that and 11th in McDaniel's first year, but
right.
been bad.
And so you'd be taking a guy with a philosophy of a scheme that didn't necessarily work for Goff and then asking him to call a different style of scheme. Like, you'd be looking for guys, in my opinion, if you're wanting to keep the scheme the same, that fall out of that Gruden tree a little closer to the Gruden tree as opposed to that Shanahan McVay system.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for like philosophical comparisons. You know, obviously McDaniel really likes speed, and I think there may be some interesting things he could do with Jahmyr Gibbs and Jameson Williams. And obviously, I think the amount of pre-snap motion and misdirection stuff is something that is valued in today's NFL and something that the Lions generally use a fair amount of too, maybe not as much as the other Shanahan, McVay tree offenses do. But like, the one thing that I don't think the Dolphins do, which is more of a schematic fit, is like the gritty run between the tackle stuff, which I know the Lions are going to want to do. It's what they haven't been able to do as consistently this year as they have in years past. And listen, I'm not saying that the Dolphins didn't run the ball successfully when, you know, this offense was at its peak. They did. Like, A-Chain was going to be a superstar, and he's still a really good back, don't get me wrong. But it's not that like aggressive 3rd and 1, we're just going to beat you up on the offensive line thing, which is where I think the Lions want to be. And so I think that disconnect is probably where I agree with you more, that this isn't a perfect fit for what they want. Now, could the Lions use a little bit of change in mentality there and be, you know, we want to be a little bit more, split them out wide and be a little bit more Shanahan-esque? I mean, that's something that they could do. I think they do have a talent base where that could work. I mean, they have enough talent on offense that they could probably run a ton of different schemes. But in order to do that, you'd have to kind of erase what you've been doing for the past 4 years. You've been tailoring this offense specifically to what Jared Goff likes. And Jared Goff, as you said, he's operated in an offense like that, and they could go back to that if they want. But it feels like they got Jared Goff playing his best football of his career and maybe stay there.
Right. Number 1 offense in the scoring offense in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right? Put up
That's
points.
Right. Next question, kind of sticking with the same theme here. Tim Bowers asks, I know the Lions have had injuries and faced good offensive teams, but is there also any correlation to Dan not being able to be in defensive meetings as much due to being a play caller? And could this make it more likely Dan doesn't call play next year?
I don't know how much it has pulled him out of defensive meetings compared to what he was in prior.
Right.
So I don't know how to accurately answer that question without just speculating.
Yeah.
It's a fair assumption that he is probably needed more in offensive meetings because he's the play caller.
Right.
At the same time, has that come at the sacrifice of him in defensive meetings, or has he found a way to cut corners in other areas? That I just don't know. I mean, I get why the dots that Tim's connecting there for sure. I just don't know how accurate it is. I'm not 100%.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to quantify. Generally speaking, I kind of doubt that Dan has much of an impact on setting the game plan, or like, you know, he'll probably have a meeting in front of the team and say, here's what we want to do offensively, here's what we want to do defensively, and then go let the coordinators be the coordinators. I feel like it's probably been that way all season, regardless of play calling duties. And what we know from Dan Campbell, based on how we see him in practice, based on how he talks about his coordinators, there's a high level of delegation on both sides of the ball. Even now that he's a play caller, I bet he basically says, like, John Morton is still my guy Monday through Saturday, right? Like, I'm still going to rely on him heavily Monday through Saturday. So I don't know if the weekly stuff changes all that much. And I'm not ready to say like that him being pulled more on offense has been to a detriment of what's happening on defense. I think that sort of stuff can be much more explained by not having your starting safeties, going up against really good passing offenses these past 3 weeks. The Packers, the Cowboys, and the Rams are all like top 5 in passing DVOA or EPA or whatever you want to use. I think and ultimately we're talking about small sample sizes to begin with, right? We're talking about from November to December, the first 2 weeks in December. I think it's jumping to conclusions at this point. I'm not saying it can't be possible, but I'd be very, very surprised if making Dan Campbell the offensive play caller has had really any sort of tangible effect on how the defense is performing. I'd be surprised. All right, next question here comes from Kyle E on Twitter. Says, do you think it would make more sense to shift to a quote unquote havoc defense that takes more risks in order to create turnovers? With how good the offense is, it seems like they just need to try to steal a possession or two in each game.
So that havoc stat, isn't that the pass breakups, interceptions? Isn't that what
Sacks,
it is?
Fumble. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's directly what he's referring to, but
okay.
I mean, I guess the idea of just like being more aggressive everywhere, just like trying to be extremely disruptive in the run game. Don't hold gaps, just get upfield and try to get a TFL. In the pass rush, screw rushing lanes, just get to the quarterback. That sort of mentality. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Okay. If it is the havoc thing, the havoc puts more weight on interceptions, forced fumbles, sacks, and PBUs. And it does ding you for allowing receptions, but it's only if it's like exceeds expectations. If it's over expected. So that's what the havoc is. The thing is, the Lions get their hands on a lot of balls. Like they hit they get a lot of pass breakups, and they try and force fumbles all the time. I think that's how Meek hurt his hand. I'm speculating, but I saw him try and punch the ball out late against the Rams, and on that last touchdown, and I think he missed.
The Lions are 3rd in pass breakups, 7th in interceptions, and 7th in sacks. Would you believe that?
Yeah. So like, I bet their havoc score is decent then.
Yeah.
So I get, yeah. So the question essentially, are you willing to take the risks more in the man's coverage style of defense that they play? It's hard to create interceptions as a corner, but it does create a lot of opportunities for safeties to create interceptions, which is why it goes back to what we talked about earlier. Missing Kirby Joseph in his range, has been a huge factor in the Lions' turnover ratio. Like they arguably have been, I think they've been much higher than they are this season, even though they're still. What are they? What did you say? 7th in interceptions this year?
Yeah, they're middle of the pack-ish when it comes to takeaways in general. They have 17 total, which is
their turnover differential is their top 5 because they don't turn the ball over either, correct. Right? And so if you're I don't know if you mentioned this during the break or if it was at the end of our last segment, but turnovers are hard to predict. I believe you said it in the last segment.
Last segment, yeah.
Turnovers are hard to predict. And so the havoc stat, the majority of having success in that is creating turnovers with your sacks, being aggressive, right? But a lot of it is opportunity. And so I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've lost my train of thought here. I think I was, I think they've done well with it. I don't know if it's one key point of that is like what's dragging them down, but I don't think, you know,
It
maybe it's just the last component.
it's interesting because it's almost contradicting my point in the first segment, but like the turnovers last year were not that much more bountiful. They had 24 total last year. They're at 17 this year with 3 games left.
That's a lot. That's
I
still
mean,
that's like one
but
every
could you
other
get
game. That adds up.
it does. But in terms of like, I guess they were +9 last year. They're +9 this year, which means they probably just turned the ball over a little bit more. Yeah, they turned it over 15 times last year, and I think they're only in single digits, 8 right now.
Right.
This year.
That's significant.
Yeah, and half of those turnovers came in the Texans game. I think, but
Probably.
But yeah, I do feel this question in some sense, and it's why, and I've mentioned it, I feel like in the past couple weeks, it's kind of what they did in the Cowboys game a little bit, which is like, okay, let's maybe tone down some of the run defense stuff and let's just get after Dak and hope that there's disruption, hope that there's sacks, hope that there's interceptions, and lo and behold, they get 5 sacks in that game and 3 turnovers. Like they cranked up the aggressiveness. They created a little bit more havoc. They channeled that a little bit more, and it's why on the podcast I even said, looking forward to next year, I kind of hope they go with just like a speed rusher type, a guy that they can utilize on specialty downs and say, hey, forget rushing lanes, forget stopping the run, just go out there and get the quarterback. Just go out there and create some havoc, because sometimes you're going to miss the tackle and he's going to scramble for 20 yards. Yeah, sometimes they're going to run a draw play and he's going to run right by you. But we think it's worth it to get a sack, to get a strip sack, to get a pressure that forces an interception, because those explosive, game-changing plays that we just spent time talking about can turn around an entire defense in a season. That's going to be worth it, even if it means giving up the occasional explosive play. But I don't.
So you want James Houston?
I kind of do. I honestly, yes. And that's why I think it's not going to happen. That's why I don't think the Lions are going to agree with me. But I do think there's something to be said about the value of getting explosive defensive plays, completely changing the dynamic of a game, especially as the original point was made by Kyle, which is your offense is really good. Sometimes you only need a turnover or 2.
It's a double-edged sword. That's
it is
the problem.
Right. Well, that
is like if they start getting more turnovers because they're more aggressive, and then they start giving up bigger explosives, someone's going to be in our mailbag that week and be like, why are they giving up so many big plays? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no doubt. It's the same conversation as we had about taking pressure off the outside corners, where it's like, you can do that, but it's going to put pressure on someone else. There's a give and take everywhere when you change strategies like that. But I just think when it comes to defense, explosive plays rule the day. The reason that the Chicago Bears are where they're at defensively is because they have a crap ton of turnovers. It's the only reason that team is doing well. And yes, those can dry up in an instant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 21 interceptions is absolutely ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But part of it is because they're causing havoc, and there is something to that. All right, next question. From Brian M., one of our Pride of Detroit direct subscribers, says, it feels like the Lions defense lacks speed on all levels. While our linebackers are good on paper, they seem to really struggle with speed. On Thanksgiving, Tom Brady called out many times it was possible, how it's impossible to run outside against the Packers because their defense is so fast.
So yeah, some of the speed that where the Lions are lacking speed isn't at the linebacker level. It's at the actual line. Right. Because the Lions have opted to put a bulkier line that is going to be slower and a little less athletic, but they are also banking on them being stronger and being able to set the edge so that you can't get outside. It's, these are the two philosophical ways that you defend the run in the NFL. You're either getting the athletes who you can't stretch on, or that but might are going to be a little bit weaker and maybe can get overpowered, or you're going to try and be overpowered and hope to cut off outside. The Lions have opted for the bigger guys. They also have opted for Derek Barnes being bigger and more of a run filler because of their defensive line, as opposed to what the Packers have done, which is going lighter at linebacker
Yeah.
so that they can flow to the ball a little bit easier. If you want, like, okay, it's one of the things that makes Jack Campbell so rare. To find a linebacker who can run at the level that he can run at and be 250 is hard to find.
Yep.
That's why they drafted him in the first round,
Yep.
right? Because they believed in his potential and the athleticism that he has is a tough combination to find. Most of the time, you're either getting a little bit lighter. Even Anzalone is a little bit bigger than like your lighter quarterbacks. And so his ability to run makes him a little unique as well. Barnes is more traditional, and I want a bigger body to fill. The Packers linebackers are like in their 220s,
230s. Yeah.
right? Like, yeah, 220s, 230s, honestly.
Yeah.
Whereas the Lions linebackers are all 240s, 250s. And so the whole front seven, they want to go a little bit bigger. If you want faster and you want more of a pass rush, then yeah, you're gonna want to get a lighter version to of a linebacker to maybe replace Anzalone if he doesn't return next year. You're gonna want to get more of a speed rusher on the edge instead of that bigger, bulkier edge rusher. That's what more modern defenses are surely doing. The majority of the league is starting to flow like that. That's why when you some of it is when you look at college, the linebackers in college nowadays, they're all 6'1", 6'2", 225, right? But they all run like the wind. They're like Malcolm, right? But in the Lions style of defense, it's not as that type of player is more of a situational player as opposed to an every down player because the Lions have chose to be more physical.
Yeah, and again, it's a push-pull thing. If you want the Lions to defense to become a little bit more light at the second level, well then, good luck stopping runs up the middle. And I know the Packers do a good job, and some of that is schematic, some of that is they have a really good defensive front. But yeah, I mean, I don't think the Lions lack that much speed when it comes to their back seven. It's just that defensive front, like you said. Because DJ Reed can run for the win, man. Like, I know it hasn't looked great since he came back from the hamstring injury, and that tells me it's probably still feeling it on some level. But of all the issues on defense, I feel like speed isn't that much. Like, I know Brian Branch isn't the speediest guy, but like, watch that guy crash down in the box and like make a tackle from the opposite end of the field and tell me he's not fast.
Yeah. He dropped into the second round because of his 40 time. When the reality is his instincts offset the lack, quote unquote, lack of speed.
Right, and people are already bringing up like the last regime, and like it's not like the Lions have these 265 linebackers who can't run worth a damn. Like Alex Anzalone is relatively fast. Jack Campbell is extremely fast. Mm-hmm. You also have Malcolm Rodriguez, and it's not to that extreme. I think it's much more balanced than maybe people are giving them credit for.
You also like a lot of these teams like to stretch their defensive line out so that they can flow to the ball a little bit better, whereas the Lions don't mind playing a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
They will go outside with their edges, and when they want to create harder angles, but the Lions like to fight it out in the trenches. That's part of their moxie. And if you want, I know a lot of people are saying, they're looking for this different defensive change, but it'd be a pretty good size overhaul. I don't want to say big overhaul, but you'd be talking about having to replace an edge rusher, a linebacker, and probably your nickelback. You'd have to replace you'd have to find 3 new starters
Amik,
that's
Alex Anzalone, and whoever's an edge. Those are all free agents anyways, right?
Right. That's why I've been saying this is if they're going to switch, this is the offseason where they could do it because they have expiring veteran contracts and they're going to need to find replacements. So they could make that change if they wanted to. I just don't know if they want to.
Right. All right, last question here. We'll touch on officiating a little bit. Eli P., one of our Pride of Detroit direct subscribers, says, on a scale of drop to drop, how would you rate Colby Parkinson's touchdown? What did you think of the review process and only one penalty at the end of the game against the Rams?
I think they ended up with 2. Right?
Did they end up with 2? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think they got the one pass interference call against St. Brown, and I think there was one more just
2 for 8. It might have been
meaningless penalty.
Yeah,
it wasn't a big deal. It didn't.
It was a delay game. It was a delay game that they purposely took.
Right. Yeah. So it didn't impact the game. I will let you speak on this since you seem to have gone down the rabbit hole further with this play than you normally even do. So I'll let you speak on it first.
Okay. I mean, here's the thing. I think we all look at that play and we see 2 things. We see maybe Colby Parkinson having possession immediately, knee down at the 1. That's what the call should have been. You roll the tape a little bit further. Does he survive the ground? It sure looks like he loses control of the football, right? I think most people can say at some point he comes down and you can't even see the ball, but you can see his hands and not a ball in it. What you don't see, unfortunately, is the ball touching the ground. I have yet to see a single angle where you can say definitively, here's the ball hitting the ground. So I think what you heard from the Fox broadcast and what Mike Pereira said is probably what the interpretation was, which is he didn't survive the ground, but we didn't see him lose the football to the ground. And if we roll it further, he does eventually regain possession of the ball, both hands pretty firmly on it, while he's still in the end zone. Therefore, when he has full possession of the ball, he's in the end zone, it's a touchdown. Now, none of what I just said is definitive. None of any interpretations. I think there's a fair amount of well, if you look at this angle, if you look at that angle, not sure, which is the definition of a play that is not clear and obvious. And so when you're looking at something that is not clear and obvious, what do? You stick with the play as it was called on the field. And that's what they did. The more and more I look at it, I think that's actually probably the right decision, even though it looks really bad. You can take that screenshot of the ball in his hands and his knee on the ground and say, well, geez, that's possession and he's down. But again, when you make a catch like that, you have to survive the ground. And it sure looks like he doesn't. But unfortunately, there's just not that one angle that the Lions really, really needed of that ball hitting the ground, even though I think we're all pretty sure it happened. You can't overturn something because you're pretty sure it happened. And so, I don't know. It sucks. It's frustrating, but I don't see anything clear and obvious about that play, which means you have to stick with the call on the field.
Here's the problem that I think most people have is, one, the ref got the call wrong initially, right? Because there's no way in the world the ref thought, oh, he caught it, oh, he lost it, oh,
Correct.
He regained it. There's no way he thought that.
That's correct.
So what he thought was he caught it, he's in the end zone.
Right.
If the ref would have been in a position to accurately see that, this is where I think the catch happened. Now I see his knee down, then he would have downed him at the 1.
Correct.
And maybe that would have been maybe that would not have been what actually happened. But the problem is that he got the call wrong initially.
Yep.
Then the replay, it seems like the answer that they are giving for why they are keeping it on, why they are upholding it, is they're molding their answer to fit the wrong call, right? Because they're trying to say, well, this is probably why the replay upheld the call. When the refs are saying, well, there's not enough evidence to say he didn't catch it, and he probably regained it anyways. you can't speculate on the back half if you're saying there's not enough evidence to definitively say he caught it or not. And so the frustration with me on that play lies in the fact that one, he got it wrong of what he interpreted to have happened.
Yep.
And then there wasn't enough replay. So then they started to manufacture this is probably what happened anyways.
But when you say
to justify
manufacture
the wrong.
When you're using the word manufacture, you're making it sound nefarious. What they're actually doing is
I kind of think it is.
No, because when you go under the booth, you are now capable of reviewing anything that happens in that play.
Sure.
And so you come to find out that he loses the ball, and you're like, oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't a catch at all. And so you keep watching and you keep watching, and you find out that, sorry, there's no evidence of it hitting the ground. So
but my argument here is that what Pereira is telling us is that, he probably lost it, then recaught it. That doesn't matter because even if that's what you think happened,
right?
They are saying, the NFL is saying, the call on the field stands because there's not enough evidence. Pereira has added a layer in here.
Sure.
Of his speculation that is completely unnecessary, that people have assumed now is maybe what the NFL believes. When I don't think the NFL believes Pereira's excuse at all. I think the NFL is the ref thought he was in the end zone, got the call wrong. There's not enough evidence to overturn it, so we have to leave it. And so, I don't think, and if they do think that he lost it and then regained it, show me the proof that he lost it and regained it. There's
that's the thing is that's what there is proof that he loses control, and there is proof that he regains control. What there's not proof of is whether that ball ever hits the ground, and therefore you can't overturn anything.
Right. Which is my point.
Yeah.
Is the fact that he got it wrong first.
Yes, was the mistake. And I mean, probably
based on what his opinion is.
Right.
Because again, there's no way he thought that
he lost control at the time.
That Rube Goldberg of event,
sure,
is what evolved. He thought he was in the end zone. So the play is frustrating.
Yes.
And maybe I'm, I think I'm trying. I say I'm speaking for the masses, but maybe I'm not.
No, you definitely are. If you're yelling at the refs, you're speaking for the masses.
But I do think it's because it's all because a mistake was initially made wrong on the field.
Of course.
And that is the maddening part of the refs in the right now, is that you have replay to correct what looks like a mistake. And if the ref said, this is what I thought happened, and then you can see that it didn't happen because he gained, it's a frustrating.
Right. The problem though is that stipulation is that once you go, if the call was like, hey, he caught it, and I thought by the time he hit the ground he was in the end zone, there's clear evidence of, like you said, there's clear evidence that wasn't what happened. It was that he caught it, his knee was down, he was short. But when you go under the hood, you can look for more than that. And they found more than that, which led to them saying, well, there's this whole thing that happened when he came to the ground that's unclear, so we can't change the call.
This is why scoring plays should be determined. Like when you're talking about scoring plays, they're all under review automatically, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can't definitively say he did score or he didn't score, it's the uncertainty, right? It's
sure. But what's the solution? You just you go, that play happens and you're like, we don't know what the call is. We're going to go look at it. Right.
But if you can't tell that he made the catch in the end zone with certainty, should he be rewarded for that?
No, I mean, in an ideal world, no, but you can't say, well, we're pretty sure that wasn't a catch, or we're pretty sure he was down at the one.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, that's a weird slippery slope that you don't want to get down into.
Yes, I understand.
There's a whole different aspect of this play, because after he catches it, or after he's down into the end zone, he has it possessed. He turns over onto his back, and the ball actually gets kicked out from him, And he regained.
Does he ever have it possession even then?
Right. And then there's the question of whether like when he quote unquote regains possession, does he have it long enough to establish possession while he's inbounds before it gets kicked out of his hands?
Right.
That's another thing that we could go down to, which is again, like it's so much complications that of course it doesn't surprise me in retrospect that they stayed with the call, because there's so much going on there where it's just like there's nothing definitive. It's a bunch of questions. It's why the rule book is probably way too unnecessarily complicated, and it's why 15 years after the Calvin Johnson catch, we're still not sure what a catch is.
There's nothing that the NFL can do or say that's going to make that play right.
Correct.
Right?
I agree.
Like there's nothing. And I think personally, probably the masses as well, there have been far too many calls this season that have gone against the Lions because the NFL called it wrong on the field and then either couldn't correct it or then corrected it when they shouldn't have. Chiefs game.
No, that was the right call. Stop. The illegal motion was the right call.
I know it was the right call, but they corrected it. But the refs made a mistake and allowed it to be an end zone, and then that's my point. Is that
that was the exact right process? Like, I'm sorry, Lions fans, that's the exact right process. Because in order to make that call, you can
for New York
if you want to put your tinfoil hats on and say New York called that, you can. But
I still do.
In order to make that call, officials literally need to confer to each other, because there are multiple things that happen in that play that not one official can see on its own.
Dude, he literally said, New York told us. Like, okay. But whatever. My point is there have been a lot of these calls this year.
I am with you with the timeout offsides thing on Thanksgiving. The rest, I think I can explain away.
Well, we will disagree.
I will say, like, I am a little bit bothered when a team only has one penalty all game, when I can like see with my blind eye a couple of like holdings and pass interferences.
Oh, it's weird, especially when that happens twice in a season.
I mean,
Chiefs game as well.
Okay, now we're full on tinfoil hat.
Dude,
I'm saying it bothers me. I'm not saying there's nefarious intent, though.
I'm not saying necessarily there's nefarious intent, but I am saying it's rare that you don't see a penalty, a game where a team goes the entire game and then a penalty gets called like in the last 5 minutes. The first penalty against them happens in the last 5 minutes, because it's the same thing. The Chiefs got a meaningless penalty against them in the final 5 minutes that it's certainly enough to make those tinfoil hats, a little bit more communicative.
Sure.
I'm not saying they're against the Lions. I'm saying that the referees have there are inherent biases that they don't always recognize.
Okay.
It happens all over. It's human nature.
It is human nature.
Human sport.
I don't know how you can explain why they would be inherently biased in some of those situations, but one of them, the guy that wears Superman on his chest, plays on one side of the ball. That's one. We're going to see another one this week. Another guy who is infallible. That's going to be fun. I'm excited about that. There's always a darling of the league, right? So I just think officiating sucks. Like that's my take. Is that officiating sucks, and you notice it more when you're losing football games.
The crazy thing is I don't think it sucks. I actually think the stuff that they're able to call is crazy. I do think, though, that they become blind unconsciously sometimes to that. Dude, watch the JMO play again. Watch JMO in the back of the end zone.
Yeah.
You could have called pass interference 2 times on that play, and they were just like, "Hey, no, situation is what it is. We'll call it on the next play."
We'll call it on Amon-Ra when Jared Goff throws a completely uncatchable ball to St. Brown, and we'll call it that.
Yeah, that's makeup calls. They have them all the time.
All right. We're getting out of here. Thanks for listening, everybody. If you're watching live on YouTube or on replay on YouTube or Twitch, appreciate you. And if, of course, you're listening at home, appreciate you as well. Be sure to leave a review if you like what you're hearing. Give us some feedback. Give us 5 stars. Leave a comment over on Spotify. Whatever you want to do. We appreciate the feedback. We appreciate the encouragement. We'll be continuing on Midweek Mailbag. I don't know what we're gonna do next week, to be quite honest.
Yeah, next week gets tough because of that Thursday game. Another Thursday game.
Plus, I'm gonna be in Florida, so it'll be weird. But either way, stick with us.
That one might have to wait.
That might be a post-week mailbag.
Yeah.
But hey, if you're subscribed to us on YouTube, if you're subscribed to us on Twitch, you got alerts. You subscribe to us on whatever podcasting platform you're listening to us, you're not going to miss an episode. So just be on the lookout for the latest episodes, and we appreciate your support. But until next time, that's Eric. I'm Jeremy. Thank you all for listening. It's chaos. Be kind.
Recording stopped.
Are you guys ready for 10 Bears primetime games next year? Woof! Thanks for stopping by, Dan. I know you were having a tough time during the game. I saw your emails come in literally while the game was going on. I'm like, oh, Dan's going through it right now. I feel bad. It'll be, I mean, whether Ben Johnson gets coach of the year or not, like, completely depends on their final 3 games, right? Like, Packers, 49ers, Lions. If you go the wrong sort of 1 and 2 in those games, you're done. And I don't think he gets it. But like, I mean, I'm trying to think who else. Like, I guess maybe Patriots guy. Why can't I think of his name?
Vrabel
probably in coach of the year conversation right now. Is he the leader? Or do you think it's Ben Johnson right now? It's probably one of the two.
Yeah, I mean, New England is still the 1 seed, right? So you'd have to say he's done a pretty fantastic job.
It is Vrabel. And in fact, Ben Johnson is 4th, surprisingly. Do you want to guess the 2 in between? Mike Vrabel at plus 150 and Ben Johnson at plus 550?
Steichen?
It's fallen off because the Colts are done. It's not Sean Payton either, or Kyle Shanahan.
That's where I was going to go with Payton next.
One NFC, one AFC.
Who's the Jacksonville coach? What's his name? Liam Cohen?
Liam Cohen is 3rd at plus 500.
Oh, and then probably Seahawks.
Yeah, Mike McDonald.
Yeah.
Yep. He is 2nd, plus 460, but Mike Vrabel out to a pretty comfy lead right now. Interesting. Dan Campbell hanging around at like 9, 12, 15th, plus 40,000. If you want to lay a bet on him, Lions go 3-0 and win the NFC North. Still on the table. Who's got the 4th place schedule? Patriots?
Bears.
Patriots, Bears. Seahawks? Not the Seahawks. Cardinals must have had it in that division this year. But hey, I've already seen some people like, well, if we don't make the playoffs, at least we're going to get the 3rd place schedule. I'm like, oh boy. That's like the smallest consolation prize to me possible, because who even knows what a third place schedule is even gonna look like.
Chiefs. Get the Chiefs.
Oh God. Wait, what? Okay, hold on. Let me look at what 2026 schedule. No, I don't need the Pro Football Focus one because they don't give me. Wow, I can't spell. Future schedules. All right. So the NFC East third place team, which is
NFC
Washington.
East? Is
I'll
it?
take playing Washington again, I think.
Okay.
The AFC South. I'll take playing anybody in the AFC South, generally speaking. Third place is, oh wow, the Colts. Actually, I don't love that. And then the NFC West, which is frick.
No.
The 49ers. Dang it.
That's gonna be tough. That's gonna be tough no matter what, though.
We need the fourth place schedule. Vikings. If you aren't making the playoffs, let the Vikings jump you, so we can play the Cardinals, the Giants, and the Titans. It's so much better. The fourth place schedule is so much better than the third place schedule. Dang it.
That's it. I want him to lose out now.
Tank. Team Tank. Here we go. Tank. Not even tank for draft pick at this point. Tank for better schedule. 3 better games. That's all. All right. I think we're probably gonna get out of here. I know we used to do all the film breakdown and stuff, and I don't know how much I want to dive too much more into the tape anyways. I'm kind of ready to just turn the page and start on Pittsburgh.
I turned the page to Pittsburgh on Saturday. I was would have been very happy with that outcome, but man, I was.
See, Cork.
Yeah.
I understand. I don't want to completely shut out the idea of officiating corruption, because we live in a very weird era of sports where sports gambling is so new on the scene that there are people that are trying to abuse it. It's been proven that there are people that are trying to abuse it.
They've been abusing it for years, though, too.
My main pushback is that I don't see the Lions being unfairly targeted. And I also don't understand why they would be. Like, I don't understand the motivation for targeting specifically the Lions. And
it is weird, though, that all the referees were born in Wisconsin. Like every referee in the league.
Well, yeah, what else are you going to do in Wisconsin? Yeah, right. The Lions are ratings darling, so having them be terrible is bad for business. Like, if there was that big conspiracy,
just like the Chiefs and the Cowboys.
And so, like, that's the part where I just have a hard time aligning. And I do think Lions fans are in general blind to the fact that every other team is going through same things.
Well, every team is not like every team has that same mentality.
Yes,
right?
Right. And they have their own laundry list of historical calls in which they got screwed, and they think no one else goes through it.
Not as much as the Lions, that's for sure.
They think though. They definitely think that.
They're wrong, but they think.
And so that's the part where I'm not saying there's no chance there's officials calling games in their own interest. It's very possible that that's happening. But in general, I live by that mantra that I always forget the actual words of, but is like, why attribute malice to something that can be explained by incompetence? Officiating is hard. It's bad. The rule book is way more complicated than it needs to be. That explains 99% of what we see happen on game days.
I get it. You just don't want to hold them accountable. It's Jeremy's fault.
Is that what it's called, moldy cornbread? Hanlon's razor? Yeah. Never attribute malice to that which can adequately be explained by stupidity. I agree. I agree that the Green Bay timeout was the worst one. And to me, that one is extremely preventable too. That is one where you can review it. You can see the timeout being called after the false start. That's the frustrating part to me. But there was nothing they can do about it. That's where I'm at.
They need better technology. Like more camera angles. Like you have like you can bring in extra cameras for big games, but you don't care on the regular season games. That's frustrating. You know, there's technology out there in tennis and soccer that they say is not applicable because it's a different style of ball and all that stuff. But like, I'm sure there's someone out there smart enough to figure that out. Not like they're hurting for money to go find that technology, right?
It's fair. Purple Yoshi, I did see, so Rodgers begging for a 12 men on the field call that he eventually got.
But constantly bitching. The guy is the worst.
I mean, he was also right.
Worst. It doesn't matter. He also was complaining. No, he complains about everything.
Well, yeah, he sucks as a person. Okay, I'm not going to disagree against that.
You can't look.
I mean, you also want to talk about
when he begs for when he begs for 60 calls, and one of them he's right on. I don't give him credit for that. You don't get credit for being 1 for 60. Like he begs for calls on every play. And the one that he was right on, they called right. Okay, great. But it's not.
I'm not giving him credit. I'm just saying, like,
sounded like it. Man deserves no credit.
To be clear, I hate that. Like, I feel like that has no business being in our game. Like rushing a play just to get a 12 men on the field while someone is like that. What are we doing here? That doesn't take strategy. Like that. That's not. Aren't we playing a game for like fairness? Like none of this is like, I don't know. It just
Rodgers don't play fair.
Of course not. And I understand he's exploiting, something in the rule book, but like,
oh, okay.
To me, it's just that no one is watching football so that you can catch them with 12 men on the field. You aren't running a proper play. You're literally just throwing a football up in the air because you know you have an automatic first down. Like that's garbage. It's the immoral football that I'm talking about. And you can argue, yeah, well, it's a skill because your quarterback recognizes a late substitution and he can get his players all in the right place and time and snap the football. But like you're not even attempting to run a real play. It's stupid. The problem is I don't know how you like rule book that one out of the game, but it just, to me, it's gross. It's dumb.
You have the referee stand over the ball until the substitution is clean.
Right, but
that's how you rule book it out.
But well, what about like defenses making an extremely late substitution and then now you're making the offense run up against a clock?
Well, you do it at a clock. You do it at like you can't,
You can't substitute after 20 seconds on the play clock.
Something stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. Like the rushing to the line, data. Especially now that like I have a lot of problems with the expedited review stuff, But now that system is in place so that you don't have to challenge as much, well, now teams rush to the line before you can get an expedited challenge in. And it's just like, there's more. That feels immoral. And that feels like we're the just
nice thing
trying
is the expedited replays are getting them all right. So that's the good
This is where you get me fired up. This is where I get fired about officiating, is where I think the rule book is stupid. Because I mean, yeah, it's just like I think the hot take that I have: slow the game down. Add another 30 minutes to every game so that you make sure the calls get right. And so when a team is trying to rush to the line, and the expedited guys in New York see it happening, say, you know what, we're stopping the call. We're going to go under the hood. We want to make sure this is right. We don't want you to just like run this extra play. I don't care. I don't care if you go under the hood and it was obvious from the get-go that it was actually the right call. Do it. Stop it. Get the right call. If that's what we're trying to strive for, perfection in officiating, so that everyone can stop bitching about the officiating after every single loss their team suffers, then slow the game down and get the plays right.
Never going to happen.
Why? More ads.
Because it's
line your pockets.
It's going to be reverse baseball, right? Like,
this expedited review is brought to you by FanDuel. There you go. I just saved the NFL.
I don't think that's what the fans would, if these games were like 4 hours long, like college games.
That's what I was going to say. That's what college is at.
Oh my God.
Have Dr. Pepper run NFL Town.
People are no, you'd have to do something game related. Like you can't just add more ads. They've been slowly dropping more and more ads on Red Zone, and people are losing their mind over that.
How about this? You do what I did about reviews. Anytime it's close, stop, go under the hood, and you get rid of the commercials after kickoffs, or after touchdowns between kickoffs.
Hmm?
And after, is it after kickoffs?
After
too?
punts, kickoffs,
after punts.
everything.
Yeah, get rid of that one. And we're just gonna have 12 more reviews. I mean, look at what the NBA is doing and all of their reviews in the end of the game, and how slow games go at the end. People still watch the NBA.
Well, that's annoying, though. My God,
I hate it. Honestly, I hate it. I'm speaking against my own preferences here.
I remember watching like some March Madness with the kids a few years back, and they were like, "How much time's left in the game?" I'm like, 5 minutes, and they're like, "Oh, so like with breaks, it'll be like 10 minutes," and I'm like, "Oh no."
There's still a half an hour left in this one.
There's at least 45 minutes going. I'm like, what do you mean? There's only like now those possessions were real quick. Now there's like 50 seconds left. I'm like, yeah, we got about an hour. We got about one more hour left in this thing. Oh, it's terrible.
Stupid expedited review. It sucks. Everyone's like, oh, look, the XFL can get these calls right in a second. I bet the NFL can do that. Nope. The NFL can't do anything right, because what you do with an expedited review is you assume you know what you're looking at, and then you don't get into the minute details, and you miss some of the things that are critical. And then you look stupid. Like, wasn't it 2 Sunday Night Footballs ago where it was like, expedited review says this is a catch. Upon further expedited review, it actually wasn't a catch. It's just like, what are we doing here?
No, I think they literally said the expedited, the challenge is upheld. The expedited review was wrong, or something like that. Like they straight just said it was like wrong.
but there was also, I feel like there was this instance that happened in a Lions game a couple of years back where like the expedited review was wrong. Like, everyone could see once you did that, and the Lions tried to challenge it, and they're like, sorry, you can't do that. We already had an expedited review. Did that not happen? I feel like that happened somewhere along the way.
I don't know. I'd just be...
Expedited review brought to you by Uno Reverse. Oh, man.
Yeah. Just another tally on the list of things that only happened to the Lions.
We're talking about a Sunday night football game that wasn't the Lions.
Yeah.
Well, that's not an answer.
I was talking about the one that you were referring to earlier. Yeah,
but
even if it never happened.
Yeah, even it might not have happened.
Write it down.
No one is saying, yeah, I remember that. So maybe I'm just making this up.
Write it down.
Write it down. All right. I think it's time to get out of here. If you missed any of this, you can just rewind and watch it on YouTube or Twitch. It'll be up on the podcast feed tomorrow as well if you want to save it for a commute or something like that. But when's the next time we'll be live? We'll be live for the Madden Sim on Saturday. I'm going to warn you right now, chat. It's not going to be a Madden Sim for Lions Vikings.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's going to be a tough one. Short week, travel.
Yeah.
Ugh, brutal.
Maybe one after the game. Do both games this Saturday?
There you go.
I mean, that is something I could do if I wanted to spend my one day off this week.
Do it Sunday night.
Madden for 4 hours.
Do it Sunday night after the Steelers game.
No. No.
Be like a midnight Madden sim.
I have to do so much post-game things.
And it's a 425, of course.
Right. Of course. Yeah. So I mean, the one realistic option is to do them both this Saturday, but I don't think I want to do that, to be quite honest.
No,
so
just do one Saturday, one Sunday. Easy.
No, I'm not doing one Sunday. Anyways, we'll be live for the single Madden Sim on Saturday. Be sure to also be on the lookout for Before the Roar on the podcast feed. And, of course, First Bite for Pride of Detroit Direct subscribers. But until then, y'all, appreciate you stopping by, spending your Tuesday afternoon with us, and we'll see you guys soon.